can't be all bad when you can start a game with Metallica. Welcome to Thursday Night Football. It's presented by Bud Light. So you know, Spanish language broadcast available tonight on Fox Deportes as we get set to go. Before you hear from us, let's hear from down on the field before this kickoff.
What a time to shine tonight, man. Center stage is all on us. Do your job every play.
I tell you, every time I give it all for y'all, man. Every time. Every play. Do it for the man next to you. Let's go and get this win. Set your mind now. Nothing less. Let's go. Win on three. 1, 2, 3. Win.
The two starting quarterbacks both wearing number 4. One guy getting his first NFL action. Welcome to the booth. This guy had plenty of NFL action, Troy Aikman. And you think about the path for the Raiders coming into camp. They had Mack on their roster. They had Amari Cooper. They're gone. But I think Derek Carr had a good game last week and something to build on.
Well, he had a really good game, probably his best game of the season, and I think the reason for that was the offensive line did a nice job of protecting him. And Derek Carr, like all of us at quarterback, when you have time to throw, you typically make good passes. On the other side of the ball, Nick Mullins making his first NFL start, and I'll tell you, I'm excited about him and what he may be able to do tonight. I know his teammates are sure excited about him. His only playing time has come in the preseason. Should be exciting for us to see his debut.
That will have to wait as the 49ers won the toss. They defer, so Oakland will start with the football. There's the weather, 80 degrees. It'll be in the 70s as this game wears on. Typical Northern California weather. It's great. And now they're going to move the ball up to where they're supposed to kick from. What is it about us and Thursday Night Football? They just put the tee and the ball on the 30 instead of the 35. This is like our start last week in Houston. Pinion will kick it away.
Don't remind me.
Dwayne Harris waiting deep. Maybe they're just punking us. Here we go. Out to the 25 it comes, unless they put it at the 20, just to mess with us even further. Derek Carr, we keep talking about his game last week. It was good. 3 touchdown passes, his first rushing touchdown period, and a quarterback rating of 136.6. He grew up a huge Troy Aikman fan, and his middle name is Dallas.
Yeah, how about that? I didn't even know that until I talked to him on the call the other day, and we'll see how he's able to do tonight. We talked about the protection he had last Sunday, and that should continue tonight. This is a 49ers defense that has struggled to get pressure on the quarterback.
Quick setup and throw, and the pass is caught by the tight end, Jared Cook. He's had maybe his best season, a guy who's bounced around in the NFL. And on the first play from scrimmage, he gets 11 and a first down. This is a good offensive line, Troy, when they're healthy.
Yeah, they are, and I think they've got some awfully good young players there at the tackle position. Of course, Brandon Parker having to play because of the injury to Donald Penn earlier in the year.
Pass to the other side, and that's Richard, who started the play lined up wide to the left. He makes the catch and gets only 2, 2nd and 8.
And their left tackle, Joe, Colton Miller, first-round pick out of UCLA. He struggled a couple weeks ago against Seattle. He's given up some sacks. I understand that, but he is an athletic guy. He's a feisty, nasty player. I really believe he's got a bright future for the Raiders.
If he went to USC, would you have said his college? Here's a little flinch on the offensive line that'll cost the Raiders 5.
False start, number 75. Offense, 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
That's Brandon Parker, who went to North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
But yeah, 2 good young rookie tackles. Donald Penn is on IR, so it's Miller at left tackle, Parker at right tackle. And a pretty good foundation for John Gruden to use as he goes forward.
And then they get their left guard back. Alexio Semele is back at left guard, so that's an improvement for them.
Play action on 2nd down, and the pass is caught by Harris, and Dwayne Harris fights his way for a first down. Working on K'Wan Williams, and a little stiff arm involved in there, and that got him 14 yards and a first down. And we'll look at this defense for the 49ers. They have only 2 interceptions as a group. They have 3 first-round picks on their defensive line. They're injured at linebacker as Reuben Foster is out for this game with a bad hamstring.
Say hot! Hot, hot! We're good, we're good! 48, 48. Silver, set.
On first down, it's Doug Martin's first carry of the game. And Martin inches his way into 49er territory with a gain of 4. Fred Warner, the rookie linebacker, there for the stop.
Doug Martin, he's kind of picking up tonight where he left off on Sunday against the Colts. He had a big day running the football, averaged over 5 yards a carry, had a nice afternoon. Unfortunately, it ended with him fumbling, which pretty much sealed the win for the Colts. I know John Gruden's excited about him. He began his career in Tampa Bay, but the last couple of years haven't been too kind to Doug Martin.
Okay, 51. No, we good. Woo.
Second down and 6. A blitz coming. Wide open is Martin, who makes the catch. Goes down the sideline and takes it inside the 30. Jimmy Ward on the stop, but a catch and run of 20 yards.
Well, here he comes. You're just going to see him out in the flat, and they bring the pressure, and the other way, and they bring the pressure, and then you got Doug Martin out there, and there's just a total breakdown in coverage by the 49ers. Nobody goes with him at all.
Derek Carr has started 4 for 4, and he's found 4 different receivers.
Monday, shot. Blue 80. What's up?
Handoff is to Bryant, and Martavis Bryant with a full head of steam has a first down carry, and Ward drags him out of bounds after a gain of 17.
Well, you're seeing more and more of these types of things with the jet sweeps. The Los Angeles Rams probably do it better than anybody, but now they bring Martavis Bryant, and he gets the ball at full speed, and he's one of those players that certainly has a lot of ability. Teams have tried to get the most out of him, but that's a nice play and a good start for this Raiders offense.
You see the hit to the right knee of Colton Miller. We'll check on him and take a break. Well, hopefully Colton Miller is okay to continue. He went into that blue tent. Watch his right leg. It's got a brace on it, and it was the body of DJ Jones banged into that right leg. Here's a first down for the Raiders, and Carr out to his right. We'll just take it out of bounds. Doug Martin is now in the tent because of that hit to his right wrist. We're told by Jimmy Ward, hip as well. So they're looking at the wrist and the hip for Doug Martin. Now second down and 12.
We're good. Shot. Blue 80. What's up?
Here's a toss to Richard running right, and a good play is made out on the edge by K'Waun Williams, and a flag is down.
Holding, number 75, offense, 10-yard penalty, remains second down.
That's the rookie right tackle Brandon Parker, as Ian Silberman has replaced Colton Miller on this offensive line, and there's the hold.
Yeah, there's the hold, and now they're going backwards. On first down on the bootleg action by Derek Carr, rather than throw it away, he runs out of bounds, and they lose 2 yards. That's why it was second and 12, and it's just not smart play. And at his age in his 5th year, you got to know better than that. Now they get the hold, and they're going backwards after what was a good drive to start this game.
Carr trying to set something up. It's not there. Heavy pressure on the play. A couple of receivers, including Cook, was close enough. Evidently. And the pressure by Cassius Marsh. He was not alone. Third down and 22. Meanwhile, over on the sideline, Nick Mullins is waiting for his NFL debut. Raiders have to get inside the 3 for a first down. Just biting off some yardage. It's Jordy Nelson to the 19. And Richard Sherman, as a couple of veterans battle out there, a gain of 6. It's 4th down.
Yeah, well, that was the likelihood of picking that up. Basically, they were going to have to score a touchdown. You said inside the 3, you're right. But John Gruden decides to just get the ball out, try to help this field goal attempt, and didn't end the way that they would have liked, but it was a good start in terms of being able to move the football. But once they got inside the 20-yard line, just a series of bad plays.
First field goal attempt for Daniel Carlson, a 5th-round pick by the Vikings, cut after week 2. And the big 6'5" place kicker knocks it through from 37. And now here we go. Mr. Mullins paging Nick Mullins. Thursday Night Football calling. Your debut is coming up. Well, let's get to know Nick Mullins. He's from Alabama, Hoover, Alabama, attended Spain Park High School, and then went to Southern Miss 2013 through 16. A lot of pass yardage, a lot of touchdowns, both school records to break the records formerly held by the great Brett Favre, and signed with the 49ers as an undrafted free agent in 2017. He gets his opportunity. He's been good in the preseason, one of those guys that fans get excited about, and then you realize who he's playing with and against in the preseason. Now it's for real. But he'll pick up a lot of fans here in Santa Clara if he can help the 49ers beat the Raiders. Not many people get tweets about him from Brett Favre, but Nick Mullins did. 11,994 yards at Southern Miss, the 87 touchdowns. Number 4, we spotted a Nick Mullins jersey in the seats. I think it's a family friend. There will be more if he goes on to win here tonight. On first down, pass is caught. He's 1 for 1 in the NFL as Marquise Goodwin picks up 10. Gilchrist forced him out, and Mullins, who ran kind of that spread offense and everything out of the shotgun in college, is now learning how to take snaps as he lines up under center here with Weston Richburg back at center after missing the Arizona game. Handoff is to Breida. He bounces near side, and Matt Breida. Good start to the drive for San Francisco. Nelson there on the stop, but a carry of 18 yards.
Well, they come out, like you said, they open it up with a pass on first down. They come back now to Breida, and they collapse that left side. Good blocking. Wide receivers getting to the action, and then Breida's got the edge. So a nice gain, and they're right back on the line. And sometimes this is a way to kind of settle a young quarterback in. Just let him get up there and get going.
Here's Mostert. Raheem Mostert's got a first down. And in 3 plays, the 49ers, who started at their 25, are at the 32 of Oakland after a 15-yard carry by Mostert.
And Raiders fans are tired of seeing this. They gave up over 200 yards rushing in Sunday's loss to the Colts, and every team comes in and they feel that they can run the football, and the last 2 runs they've gotten gashed here on this opening drive by the 49ers.
Mullins to throw. Juszczyk, the fullback, out of the backfield, and he makes the catch out of bounds at the 26. A gain of 6.
Nice job by Nick Mullins getting off his first read, going to his second. And you know, he was a guy, like you said, in 2017, he was brought in by the 49ers as part of the draft process, and before he left to go home, they were kind of intrigued by him. They liked him. They thought he, was a smart guy. The way he handled himself while he was here, they decided to sign him, and they brought him in, thought that they would develop him. No way did they figure that he was going to be starting here this season, but that's the way it's panned out, and everyone's excited about seeing what he can do.
Goodwin on the carry, well played up front by Oakland. Lemur on the stop, a gain of just a couple. Well, these are big signings in the offseason. Garoppolo traded here, but then signed the big deal, and he was lost in week 3, out for the season with a torn ACL, and the same for Jerick McKinnon, who tore his ACL the last play of practice a week before the season started. Here is one wide open for the touchdown, Garcon. What a start for Nick Mullins at the end of a perfect opening drive. 49ers on top.
We're going to see Reggie Nelson come down 27, and Garcon, here he comes dragging across, and there's just nobody playing coverage on the back end of that. Just a simple bootleg action. Garcon punctures it through the middle, and the Raiders' defensive woes continue.
Nick Mullins starts 3 for 3, 41 yards and a touchdown. And more trouble for this Raider defense. Gold makes it 7-3. What a start. Can't really do any better. Number 4 has his team up 4 early on Thursday. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. We're at Levi's Stadium. Good start for Nick Mullins. And for Pierre Garcon, he is in the end zone for the first time in 19 games. 38th career touchdown catch, first as a 49er. Pinion pops it up, so Harris gets a chance to return it. Pro Bowler with the Giants a couple of years ago, stays upright and is knocked down near the 28. So the Raiders have it, down by 4. Second possession. Here's a short message from Target. So the question is, are the offenses this good, or are the defenses this bad? There have been 15 plays so far in the game. 8 have gained double-digit yardage. Here are tonight's players to watch, presented by Target. We'll look at the 2 tight ends, Jared Cook, the veteran, and George Kittle. Cook is having arguably his best season in the NFL, and he's been around. He's in his 10th year. Kittle his 2nd year, and he is number 3 among tight ends with his receiving yardage, and a player is down for San Francisco on that kickoff. And we'll take a look at the replay, and Emmanuel Mosley, who was just added to the active roster, was the one down and injured.
These 49ers, really both teams, but especially the 49ers, have had so many injuries. We're going to go back and take a look at the touchdown, and Reggie Nelson, here he is playing safety, and you're going to see Garcon. He just goes right through the middle of the defense off the play action by Mullins, and I don't know what Reggie Nelson is looking at, but a huge bust then in the coverage, and Nick Mullins is sitting there saying, hey, this NFL stuff isn't all that hard. 3 for 3 on his opening drive and a touchdown to show for it.
And Garcon, who has been around, wise enough to not throw it up into the seats. The 11-year pro handed the souvenir to his quarterback Nick Mullins, and that will go on the mantle in a Mullins household somewhere to be determined.
And I just got word that NFL.com, the souvenir shop, has just crashed due to sales of the Nick Mullins number 4 jersey. Yeah, that's what I hear.
Well, stuff happens fast in this world. Colton Miller is back out there. Doug Martin the same for Oakland. That's good. Here's Martin. Lowers his shoulder and bangs into the body of Fred Warner. A gain of 9 on first down. Talked about that Nick Mullins fan. And there you go. Bucket list. See number 4, Nick, playing a 49ers game. Check, and hi to all the family members watching back home. Good start. They're happy and celebrating in the Mullins household. While the Raiders have it, 2nd down and 1.
Blue item. Is up.
Carr keeps. Carr is sacked. Brought down on the play by DeForest Buckner. And Buckner now up to 5.5 sacks for the year. It's 3rd down.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner is right in the middle, and he pretty much splits a double team and is able to just take a straight beeline shot on Derek Carr. That's been a problem throughout this season. Some of the pressure that Derek Carr has been under. Did not give up a sack on Sunday against the Colts, but Buckner is one of those guys. You got to have an answer for him. If there is a pass rusher on this defense, he's the one.
Flag on the play on 3rd down. The pass for Nelson is out of his reach. Carl Shuffers will tell us what the infraction is. By the way, in that first possession by Oakland, Solomon Thomas was credited with a
formation.
sack.
Oakland number 75 was not on the line of scrimmage. That penalty's declined. Results of the play. 4th down.
So it's 4th down here, and Solomon Thomas got his first of the year and 4th career sack. The number 3 overall pick a year ago when Carr just ran out of bounds for a 2-yard loss the first time they had it. A sack by Buckner on this possession, so 2 given up already. And here's Townsend to punt. Ugly punt. Fielded by James. And not much room to maneuver. A 7-yard return. Lee on the stop, and we're seeing this a lot. John and Derek talking it over after a whiff on 3rd down. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. A couple of the NFL's all-time greats. Joe Montana, 4 Super Bowls. Steve Young with a Super Bowl and a jacket and enshrinement in Canton. And now it's Nick Mullins for the injured C.J. Beathard, who was playing for the injured Jimmy Garoppolo. Hands off to Breida over the left side, and the play is made by Maurice Hurst. A gain of 3. The preseason headlines, there were high hopes in these parts. Are the 49ers the favorites to win the NFC West in 2018? Here are some of the headlines from the San Francisco Chronicle, the last 2. The first one from the Mercury News. Headlines tomorrow. Buck picks on the San Francisco Chronicle. There's John Lynch, the general manager. A lot of talent on his roster, but some big injuries with their quarterback and with their tailback, McKinnon. Here's a throw to Breida. It'll bring up 3rd down as Clinton McDonald make the stop after a gain of 4.
Well, there certainly was a lot of optimism coming into this season. Whether that was realistic or not is anybody's guess, but certainly it was because of the way that they finished the season last year with 5 straight wins. They had what they believe is their franchise quarterback, and it has been a series of streaks for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They started last year 0-9. They finished the season winning 5 straight. They begin this year losing, or they're currently losing 6 straight, and somehow they just need to start trying to string together some wins like they did at the end of last season.
This would be a good time to do it as the pass is caught by Garcon, and he's got a 1st down. They have the Raiders here at home, and then they take on the 1-7 Giants next week. Then they're bye. Up front, here's the offensive line. It's a good line, and Joe Staley is in his 12th year and on his 6th head coach. The backs and receivers. The tight end is outstanding. George Kittle. Shutout so far. Did you see him? 85 to the left. Mostert gets it. to the line of scrimmage, and then a gain of about 1. Frosty Rucker, longtime NFL defensive lineman, made the tackle.
Well, we talked about the break in coverage, the blown coverage that Reggie Nelson had on the touchdown to Pierre Garçon, and it's been a revolving door in the secondary for the Raiders for several weeks now, and immediately Reggie Nelson finds himself on the bench, and they bring in Eric Harris, who started last week versus the Colts for the first time this season. He's immediately thrown back into the lineup.
2nd down and 9. Mullins keeps, fires, pass caught, Garçon. How about this connection here early with Mullins and Garçon to hear Whitehead on the tackle and a completion of 25 yards and a good throw.
Yeah, well, he had his pick. If he wanted a bigger play, he could have gone down the middle. You're going to see how it opens up. The 2 safeties, the 2 deep look, and he takes the dig route instead to Garçon, but he certainly could have come back to Richie James, the 7th round pick out of Middle Tennessee, and that could have gone for 6 points.
Mullins has started 6 for 6. Garçon has 3 catches. Mullins to the middle, too high. Had Goodwin, overthrew him, and that's his first incompletion.
I had a chance to visit with John Lynch today about Nick Mullins and ask him kind of what they liked about him. And you know, he's not your prototypical quarterback, certainly in the NFL. He's a little undersized at just 6'1", but you know, a really smart guy. We heard Aaron Andrews' report to begin this game that probably Kyle Shanahan is the only one who knows the offense better than he does. I mean, a really smart guy. He picked it up quickly. He can operate the entire playbook. But he got into those preseason games and did some good things, and they say his teammates absolutely love this guy.
Play action here. Mullins finds the tight end Kittle. Kittle with blocking takes it down inside the 15 with a first down. Little sidearm throw for 15 yards. Christina?
Well, yeah, Joe, not just his current teammates, but the college teammates as well. John Gruden going to an unlikely source for the scouting report this week. Jalen Richard, his running back, played together with Mullins at USM Southern Miss. And he said that he helped us a lot this week with the scouting report. He's an athletic guy. He's an explosive guy. And you got to watch out for the guys who come in and want to seize that opportunity. And we got to have our defense play well.
Yeah, especially when 1-6 is taking on 1-7.
Who is that? Is that George Kittle?
Kittle is on
there.
a knee and getting attention after that 15-yard completion. So they look at him, and we'll be right back after this from Progressive. John Gruden and Derek Carr talking it over. Kittle gets attention now on the sideline. One of the best in the game, a young guy, 5th-round pick out of Iowa, who played with C.J. Beathard, who's out with a wrist injury. And here's Breida, right side, back to the line of scrimmage. A gain of 1. Let's go back to the hit on Kittle.
Hard to tell exactly what it was, but I can tell you, George Kittle, you know, you talk about his production, leading the team in receptions, and when you watch them and you prepare, you see that they're just simply trying to find ways to get the ball into his hands. You know, they've had injuries at the wide receiver position. They're without Trent Taylor in this one, and that's why Richie James, who we talked about a little bit earlier, that's why he's playing today. But George Kittle, he is a versatile guy. They move him into a lot of different places, so it would be a big loss not to have him playing anymore.
So far, so very good for Nick Mullins. Looks terrific. 49ers with the lead after 1 quarter, and they're on the move again. Welcome back. Aerial coverage is brought to you by State Farm. 205 combined yards of offense in the first quarter. George Kittle headed into the locker room, but clapping his hands. He gets looked at before a 2nd down play. This game's got a nice pace to it. Exciting here in Santa Clara. Play action pass caught. Good throw, tight end Dwelly. And Dwelly's got his first catch. The rookie from USD San Diego. He got 8. just short of first down yardage, but a good throw into traffic.
Yeah, I've been real impressed with what we've seen here tonight. I think even some of the simple things are what would come across as maybe an easy throw. Even the one where Kittle got injured, I think he's doing a good job of understanding where he's vulnerable, getting his head around, navigating defenders, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. He's done a really nice job here with his first NFL action.
3rd down and 1. Breida trying to shake a tackle, does, and may have first down yardage. Depends on where they mark him, and with the official running in, it looks like it's enough. The first guy there was Kyle Wilbur, went through him, and Wilbur just missed on a tackle to force a field goal.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story for the Oakland Raiders. Wilbur, he's right there in the hole, and if he makes that tackle, yeah, they're stopped. And instead, that's really tough running by Breida to be able to pick that up. But the Raiders this season have had a hard time getting off blocks. They've not been able to make tackles, and those missed tackles and everything else that's happened, missed assignments, they've struggled.
Earl Mitchell in at fullback, and the handoff to Alfred Morris, and this time Hankins gets through and makes a play, a loss of 2. Jonathan Hankins, who has been around, 3rd team in 3 years, able to get through this offensive line and make a stop. 2nd and goal.
Yeah, Weston Richburg, the center, that's who Hankins just goes right through the middle of him and makes a heck of a play there on Alfred Morris. See what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. They're going to put him in gun. Thought maybe they'd put him under center and do some type of play action, but they're showing what they're doing now.
2nd down and goal. Mullins keeps, throws, end zone, nearly picks. Goodwin was potentially the target. Behind him was Kendrick Bourne. And there were Raider defenders all over the place. 3rd and goal.
Well, takeaways have been hard to come by for the Oakland Raiders and the 49ers for that matter, but that was an opportunity right away to be able to make an interception and avoid giving up any touchdown or field goal or any points of any kind, and Darryl Worley just unable to make the play.
3rd down and goal. Mullins over the middle for the touchdown. Kendrick Bourne. From a near pick to a touchdown for San Francisco, and Mullins is on fire.
Well, Nick Mullins, you watch his eyes. He knows where he's going with the ball. He does an excellent job of holding defenders and not tipping his hand at all, and he comes right back to Bourne and just throws a perfect strike.
Mullins is selling more jerseys. 9 for 11, 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. The debut could not be going any better. Bourne gets the 2nd touchdown. Up 11. Beautiful night in Northern California. We're in Santa Clara, 45 miles south and east of San Francisco. The 5th-year home of the 49ers. And those that are here to root for San Francisco are having a blast because Nick Mullins looks terrific.
I'll say.
This is about how your debut went in the NFL, right?
Yeah, sure did. Watch Tahir Whitehead here, and then Eric Harris, the safety, and by Mullins looking them off, the space that it then creates for Bourne, and it's an excellent job, and the reaction that he gets from his teammates after he throws this touchdown, the hugs, and talk about John Lynch talking about how much the teammates love playing with this guy and really pull for him. It was pretty obvious after that touchdown, and he's off to a great start. You can only imagine what John Gruden is thinking. It was one thing when it was Andrew Luck on Sunday, but Nick Mullins is now carving him up.
On first down, Carr overthrows his tight end Derek Carrier. Saturday, the 10th ranked Buckeyes look to get back in business against Nebraska at 11:30 Eastern. Then Big 12 contenders West Virginia and Texas clash at 3:30 Eastern. That's coming your way Saturday on Fox, or watch anywhere on the Fox Sports app. Second down and 10. Number 4 in red is outplaying number 4 in white. Handoff is to Martin. Nice move, and Doug Martin gets 10. Good run. Sheldon Day makes the stop, but not before a first down is picked up. How about the relationship between these two? Gruden in the first year of a 10-year deal. Derek Carr is in the second year of a 5-year extension. And there's been some tension, it would appear, from the outside. You wonder what goes on the inside between those two.
Yeah, well, historically, John hasn't been a guy who's, stuck with many quarterbacks for very long.
Obviously signed to the extension leading into last year while John Gruden was still on Monday Night Football on ESPN. Now he comes in. Khalil Mack is gone. He's with the Bears. Amari Cooper is gone. He's with the Dallas Cowboys. So people say, well, what about Carr? I mean, is he next? Who knows?
Yeah, and you don't know where those rumors started because people were certainly speculating. But in talking with John Gruden, he says he loves the quarterback and believes that he's going to be one of the real greats in this game. And I think Carr's excited about the fact that he knows as long as he's in Oakland, he's going to be playing with the same offensive coordinator for a while.
Here's a good throw for a first down and more. Brandon LaFell, who caught a touchdown last week. He's got 15.
Yeah, Brandon LaFell is a guy who's been awfully quarterback friendly over the years. He's been around the league a little bit, but he's a big target and he's a real pro. But to just follow up on that I say offensive coordinator, John Gruden calls the plays, he installs the offense. He essentially is not only the head coach, but he's also the offensive coordinator. And Christina Pink talked about it. Carr's been through a lot of them already in 5 years.
Pressure on Carr out to his left and caught on the sideline by Nelson. Nice grab by Jordy Nelson. Pressure by Cassius Marsh, and Carr was able to find number 82 for a first down.
Derek Carr, in talking with him, he really loves this offense, and he feels that it's one, and every quarterback wants it, that there's answers, and no matter what a defense throws at you, there's places to go with the football, and he feels that it's the most quarterback friendly offense that he's played in.
Here's Martin right side. LaFell in front of him and does not deliver a block. A flag on the play as Elijah Lee makes the tackle.
Elijah Lee, he's getting the opportunity to play again tonight because of the fact that Reuben Foster is inactive, dealing with the shoulder injury.
Holding, number 10, offense, 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
It's on receiver Seth Roberts, who was out there trying to deliver a block, and instead he delivered a hold.
Yeah. He got called. He didn't like the call, and John Gruden doesn't like the fact that they're going backwards again. So they, when they've gotten something going offensively, then they're just broken down with penalties and offensive mistakes.
First down and 20. Pass is caught. And a good tackle is made. That was Tyvis Powell, who drew the hold a moment ago, as Brandon LaFell is good for just a 1-yard gain. 2nd and 19.
Well, when you watch Derek Carr, he is completing over 70% of his passes, and which is awesome. That's a good thing. But there are times when he passes things up that are downfield. And whether that's because he's predetermining where he wants to go with the football, or he's just simply been hit so many times he's trying to help out the offensive line. But when you get into 2nd and 19, these are hard to overcome if you're not going to get the ball down the field.
Carr is going to go down again. Sacked for the third time in the game. Ronald Blair got through. A loss of 3. No sacks against the Colts. 6 the previous game. 3 already tonight.
Well, both rookie tackles kind of get pushed back. Certainly Brandon Parker. Excuse me, that's Ian Silberman at right tackle and gets pushed right into the lap of Derek Carr.
Yeah, now Parker just checked out. Silberman's at right tackle and Colton Miller is back at left tackle. And it's 3rd down and 22 after the sack. Timeout taken by the Raiders, and we'll be back in 30 seconds after this from Verizon. Let's take a look at the sack. 19 on the year for this 49er defense. 3 tonight now.
Cassius Marsh, he is a really athletic guy and is able to do a lot of different things, but he's just able to push Silberman, who's now at right tackle, right into Derek Carr.
Pass is caught on 3rd down and 23, and LaFell, who's become the favorite target of Carr, good for just 4, and that play does nothing except bring up 4th down.
No, it's designed. They're trying to get the ball out to LaFell, and the other receivers are blocking, you know, with it being 3rd and long, and just hoping maybe you can spring a guy. Those downs and distances are almost impossible to overcome.
Johnny Townsend, the rookie punter. End over end. Rather short punt that checks back up outside the 20. Where it's down by Markel Lee. Just a 24-yard punt. How about Nick Mullins? 9 for 11. He's found 7 different receivers. He's got it back up 11. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. When they use the term a pro's pro, talking about a guy like Howie Long, who was a great teammate with the Raiders and has been a great teammate to all of us at Fox ever since. From the 24, another possession for Nick Mullins. Going for 2 touchdowns. Hands off to Breida. Bad ankle at all. He gets 2 as he leaps over a tackler. Here's a night for Mullins, and we've seen a little bit of everything, just about everything good.
Well, yeah, really good, and no real mistakes other than the one that Daryl Worley should have intercepted on that last possession. But I think Kyle Shanahan did a nice job. The first play of the game, they come out and they turn it loose. They got the ball out of his hands quickly.
Here is Mullins, who throws incomplete. Reggie Nelson, who's back in the game with pressure. Let's go down to Aaron Andrews.
Well, just to continue the conversation on Mullins, I was talking to George Kittle about him, and he said last year when he was on the practice squad, he used to take all the calls from the game, wait till the stadium would empty out, and run them all by himself, just to familiarize himself with Kyle Shanahan's offense. As George Kittle was saying, not the easiest offense to get to know.
Well, it's impressive, and you can see it's led him to this, where he's making his debut short week, and you'd never know it. Garyon Conley was guilty of a hold, which brings with it a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down. So another penalty against the Raiders that leads to a first down for San Francisco up at their own 31.
Yeah, after they had made a good stop, and then they got pressure on Mullins and starting to do a couple good things on defense, and now they give the 49ers a new set of downs.
Kittle back out there, the tight end, who was banged up earlier as Breida is forced out. So here Whitehead blew up the play, a loss of 5. Second down.
Well, Paul Guenther, the defensive coordinator, he's not a guy who brings a lot of blitzes. They're in the bottom third overall in terms of bringing pressure this season, but he's not going to continue to sit back and let Nick Mullins just go right through him.
Here's the penalty where they got Conley, and As they snap it in a hurry, Garcon has it knocked away by Daryl Worley. So now 3rd down and 15. We promise you there was a penalty on Conley. Now it's 3rd down and 15. It'll be a footnote if the Raiders can get a stop here. 49ers 4 for 4 on 3rd down. But all have been 3rd and 4 or less.
Hey, watch it go.
Just a 4-man rush. Pass is caught by Juszczyk, but it's 4th down. Nicholas Morrow made the stop, a gain of 5, and so that was the best effort by this Raider defense in the half.
Yeah, it was, and they got him finally to 3rd and long, and they played coverage. They rushed 4, and they got in the throwing lanes and forced Mullins then to come underneath. So, you know, throughout the game on Sunday, they could not make a stop against the Colts. This game started the same way, and then finally now we'll see whether or not John Gruden and Derek Carr can get something generated on the other side of the ball.
Pinion hits it. Harris calls for a fair catch, stays away, and look at this punt. Down near the 6. 64-yard punt by Bradley Pinion. That's his long for the year, and the Raiders have it backed up down 11. Some of those names, the history of this league and the AFL concerning the Raiders, some of the best to ever do it. 1st down from the 6. Handoff is to Richard, and Richard knocked down near the 10 by Solomon Thomas, who has his first sack in this game.
Well, we talked about Ian Silberman now playing right tackle, and there's a look at Brandon Parker talking to offensive line coach Tom Cable, and all we can assume, I don't believe it's injury related. I think he was essentially benched on the first 2 possessions. He had 3 penalties against him. He had a false start, an offensive holding, and then he had an illegal formation called against him that was declined. But he got thrown in there, as we said earlier, when Donald Penn went down. I know they like him, but you know, sometimes a young guy begins to struggle, and you just get him out of there before he loses too much confidence.
Pass is broken up. The target was Seth Roberts. And Fred Warner, the linebacker, was defending the little receiver. It's 3rd down and 6.
You know, Tom Cable, of course, in his first year as O-line coach here with the Raiders, he was the head coach at one time. He was with Seattle. They would just give him defensive linemen and tell him to make them offensive linemen. At least here in Oakland, he's got some talent to deal with, and he's one of the better offensive line coaches in all of football.
Third down and 6. Carr protected. Pass caught. Cook. 1st down. Clock runs under 5 to go in the half, and the Raiders trying to get something started here before the break.
Yeah, and they finally convert on a 3rd down, and that's been an area for them where they haven't been particularly good this year. And then, of course, they were not good on their first 3 attempts, so they're trying to dig out of this hole, this field position after that punt, and see if they can't put together enough plays to come away with some points of their own here.
Down by 11. Carr steps up, pass nearly picked, and now it's caught. Richard. And Jalen Richard has got a 1st down on what was nearly an interception by Tyvis Powell. What a mischance that was, and it goes for a 25-yard gain.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that ball got deflected at the line or not. It looked like it might have the way it came out, and yep, sure enough, Solomon Thomas, or excuse me, Eric Armstead is the one who got a hand on it, and I'm with you, Joe, that looked there for a minute that ball was going to be intercepted.
25-yard gain, Oakland's longest play of this half. It comes on the deflection with some help. Here's Richard. He is swallowed up. Back to the line of scrimmage. That's it. Sheldon Day, and he was not alone. Now under 3.5 to go. Oakland with 2 timeouts. 2nd down and 10. Just got it away. This is Martin, right side. On 2nd and 10, he picks up 4. Cassius Marsh made the tackle. 3rd down coming up.
Yeah, the 49ers there just playing some coverage, trying to keep from giving up the big play. Or he checks it. They get a nice gain there running it, but see if they can't convert here on another 3rd down opportunity.
Carr sacked again. Marsh was in there. Dakota Watson as well, his first game back as he's coming off the right edge. And they met at Derek Carr. 2 minutes left.
Yeah, the protection issues certainly continue again today.
Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. A punt coming as Robert Saleh's defense, the coordinator for San Francisco's, had a big game. 4 sacks tonight, 1.5 for Marsh, 1 for Thomas, 1 for Buckner, 1/2 for Dakota Watson, just back off IR. The punt by Townsend and the fair catch at the 20 by Richie James. And now we'll see how the young man, the quarterback Nick Mullins, handles the 2-minute offense tomorrow night on NFL Network. His iconic catch helped launch a dynasty, but his most courageous battle was fought off the field. A Football Life, Dwight Clark, tomorrow at 8, only on NFL Network.
Well, we'll see what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. They've got all 3 timeouts, and we've already talked about how well he knows the offense, and they'll let it rip here, and then they also get the ball to start the second half. So looking for the Raiders to try to make another defensive stop like they did the last time out.
Here's Breida, cuts back, a lot of room to run. And on first down, Breida gets 6 to hear Whitehead with the stop.
Breida, we talked about Jerick McKinnon and his injury and what that meant to this offense. It was significant. I was a big Jerick McKinnon fan when he was with the Minnesota Vikings and the things that he's capable of doing within the passing game. And Breida, who got his opportunity last year and did a nice job, but he's had to absorb the workload with Jerick McKinnon going down.
2nd down and 4. Here he is, and a loss on the play. Made by P.J. Hall, the rookie. A loss of 2, and a timeout is taken. And it's Oakland taking the timeout, hoping for a 3rd down stop. What's coming up on the Toyota halftime?
Everybody, you guys ready for halftime? We got ourselves a Toyota.
Debut of Nick Mullins. These guys are really developing a following on the streets of New York.
They sure are.
3rd down and 6. Let's see if there's more for Terry to break down and talk about with another play by Mullins. Got to make one, and he does. 1st down and more. Richie James off to the races. Inside the 25, knocked down by Nelson. Another big play. And on 3rd down and 6, 53 yards by Mullins.
Well, it's a really nice route by the rookie Richie James. He comes off the line of scrimmage, puts a little shake on the corner, and he gets inside. And like I said, Paul Guenther, not a big blitz coordinator, but they bring the pressure, and it opens up the middle, and a huge gain then on 3rd down.
Mullins has found 8 different receivers. So it's not like he's a young guy who's locking in on one receiver like a veteran like Garcon. Now, he's found him a few times, but 8 different players. Mullins was ready for this opportunity.
Well, there's no doubt, and as I said a little bit earlier, I think Kyle Shanahan has called a good game, but I don't think that's unusual. I think Kyle Shanahan always does, and he's very creative in how to utilize the skills of the players that he has. I think the criticism that he faces sometimes is he gets a little bit pass happy, but I think the creative minds, I think that's usually the criticism that they face. But I think he's really talented and really gifted as a coordinator.
Here he is again, James, looking for blocks. 44 seconds, 2 timeouts. The 49ers don't use one here.
It's Richie James. He's getting his opportunity. He hadn't had but 1 catch coming into this game, but he's looked good.
That looked like a false start on Richburg, the center. A little flinch before the snap. '49ers can use a timeout here instead of a 10-second runoff, as Carl Sheffers deciphers what happened, but it looked like Richburg had a little false start of his own before the snap.
In order to false start offense, 5-yard penalty. In order to avoid a 10-second runoff, San Francisco has been charged with their 2nd timeout.
That little flinch by Richburg. And the kid, Nick Mullins, said that's my fault.
Yeah, a little different for all those guys up front when all of a sudden you're working with a different quarterback. Remember, because it is a Thursday night game, not much time on the field. A lot of walkthroughs, and so you just don't simply get the reps that you otherwise would get in a normal week.
So now 1 timeout left. 2nd and 8 from the 21. Extra men on the rush. Pass is dropped by Richie James. And he might have walked into the end zone on that.
Yeah, no doubt he would have. And the blitz once again by the Raiders, and there was nobody then in the middle of the field. You can see Nick Mullins, he knows that would have been another touchdown pass for him.
Now 3rd down and 8, 25 seconds left. 49ers are 5 for 6 on 3rd down.
The people always talk to you, blitz a young quarterback or not. When you blitz him like that, it tells him exactly where to go with the ball. Sometimes that's a good thing for a guy who hadn't played.
Pass is incomplete for Garcon. It's 4th down, and the field goal unit will come on to make it a 17-3 game with the very reliable Robbie Gould with his first field goal try.
Well, he had the right idea, and it's just a matter of reps with Pierre Garcon. You see the guys, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, they throw that back shoulder fade. It's not an issue whatsoever. Just unable to connect on that one. And John Gruden, he's got to be just livid watching this first-year player go through him the way that he has.
Gould. So good. Number 5 on the all-time list for field goal accuracy. And a former All-Pro. Fox Sports Supports is proud to partner with The Mission Continues, a nonprofit organization building a movement of military veterans who are empowering stronger communities through service. In nearly 50 cities nationwide, The Mission Continues deploys veterans alongside community partners to improve schools, revitalize parks, and foster neighborhood development to create sustainable community impact. Veterans and non-veterans are encouraged to volunteer or donate at missioncontinues.org. 16 seconds left in the half in what is a 2-touchdown game here in Santa Clara. This is a long play for John Gruden. He's in year 1 of a 10-year deal. This is an organization that's on its way to Vegas for the 2020 season. They're compiling draft picks. They have 3 in the upcoming first round. And when you have 3, you have the world at your fingertips. You can make decisions. They've got salary cap room. They're not completely wedded if they don't want to be. Maybe they do to Derek Carr. That remains to be seen. Justin Herbert is the big quarterback coming out from Oregon. Raiders are moving into this new stadium in Vegas. $1.8 billion will seat 65,000 people for a football game and be able to expand to hold 72,000. Who will be on that roster come 2020? And what will those games be like? Will they keep the PA system down? There'll be a lot of headaches in that stadium on Sundays in Vegas. What a start for Mullins. Awesome. Toyota halftime coming up.
Want to stay up to date? Hey Siri, show me football schedules.
Thursday night football heads to the West Coast for the last battle of the Bay. Nick Mullins steps in and makes it look so darn easy.
Mullins over the middle for a touchdown. Mullins is on fire.
Who will leave their mark in the second half?
That's tonight's Game Flow, brought to you by Progressive. But Nick Mullins has been in the flow since the start. Welcome to the booth. I'm Joe Buck, along with the Hall of Famer Troy Aikman. And man, how can you come away anything but impressed with what Nick Mullins did? He found 8 different receivers. He looked like the better quarterback.
Yeah, he's had some time in the pocket to make throws. He's made them all too. I mean, he's gone through his reads. He's gotten the ball out quick. He's read the blitz. The Raiders have simply not been able to make him uncomfortable, and that's the challenge for a young guy, is to try to make that happen. And like I said, he's played with great poise. We anticipated that coming in. I think Kyle Shanahan's called a heck of a game. He's got 2 touchdown passes. Should have had a third if it hadn't been dropped. And he's, other than the one throw down in the red zone that Darryl Worley could have intercepted that he dropped, that was really the only poor decision, mistake that he had there in that first half. And now he gets a chance to get the ball to start this second half.
You know, what do you think they said at the halftime?
Oh, man.
Just keep doing that. Whatever you're doing, Nick, just keep it up. You look great, kid.
Hey, he looks good, and the team has rallied behind him. And remember, once again, that a short week, so this is a young guy who was not getting much work, if any work, you know, with the #1 team. And so
out to the 25 it will go. Down to Aaron Andrews we go.
And to quote Kyle Shanahan at the half, he said Nick Mullins is doing a hell of a job. He said you could really tell how everybody else has elevated their game around him. I said, is there anything you're going to go over with him at halftime? And he said, just a couple technical things, maybe a few things he's missed there in the first half, but he did say not much. I asked him about his defense, and he said, well, with 4 sacks and a ton of pressure on Carr, what I'm going to tell them, keep doing what you're doing, Joe.
Maybe you can say dirty words like that on Dancing with the Stars, but not on Thursday Night Football, young lady. First down from the 25-yard line for Nick Mullins, and there are the numbers. 8 different receivers, 2 touchdowns. Play clock is alarmingly low at 2-1. Just got it away. And this is a near turnover. It looked like Breida got on it. And it is 49ers ball.
Yeah, just it hits Breida's hand. He just doesn't seat it, you know, into the pocket. Whether Breida was reaching for it, couldn't tell based on that right away as to whether or not he just didn't give him much of a pocket or not. But yeah, really fortunate. Got a little rush there with the play clock, and fortunately for the 49ers, avoided a disaster to start this second half.
We're down low again. 5 seconds left on that play clock. Second down and 12. Mullins passes. What a catch by Kittle. A one-handed grab. Foot race. Down near the 5. Dangerous throw. And George Kittle, the good young tight end, hauled it in for 72.
Well, this is when it's your night. I don't even think the design of the play was very good. You got two receivers right in the same area. Somebody did something wrong. And then you've got about 4 Raiders defenders, and how Kittle makes this catch. I don't think anyone can believe that that one somehow found its way to his left hand, and he's able to haul it in.
Kittle has an 82-yard catch and run. Longest play across the NFL from scrimmage, and now a 72-yarder as Juszczyk gets hit in the backfield and fights his way inside the 5. The first guy there was Frosty Rucker. What a play and what a night, is the stats now starting to pile up for young Nick Mullins.
Well, that's right, and you look at it again where he is able to fit this ball in, and it's just not a very well designed concept within the playbook to where you have that many receivers that close to each other, and so that's why there were so many defenders in the area, and yet he's able to squeeze it in there somehow. And so it certainly has been his night when you're coming up with plays like that.
Play action, wide open, Kittle, touchdown. First NFL action for Nick Mullins, and he has carved his way right through John Gruden's defense.
You look at the scheme in which they're playing and the breakdowns in coverage, it's just over and over. I mean, just fundamentally, they're not playing assignment football, and constantly guys are out of position, just completely vacating zones.
Now they had too few guys on the extra point. Oakland did. They only had 10 guys out there. Mullins, what a night. 3 touchdown passes, finds his tight end. 24-3 San Francisco. Back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. The greatest to ever do it. Statistics tell you that. Jerry Rice. During halftime, a ceremony for Terrell Owens, who received his Hall of Fame ring from David Baker, as Pinion kicks it away. Here is that ceremony for Terrell, who was the 3rd-round pick of the 49ers in '96. Jerry Rice tore his ACL in '97. He and Steve Young hooked up for 13 wins in '97. At 936 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns that year. And he is number 3 all-time in receiving touchdowns, 153, number 2 in receiving yardage. Elected to not go to Canton, Ohio for his Hall of Fame induction. Chose Chattanooga over Canton, Ohio, and so David Baker came here to hand him his ring at halftime tonight. Doug Martin carries, gets 2. Earl Mitchell on the tackle, Christina Pink.
Hey, Joe, well, keep an eye on this Raiders offensive line. As John Gruden told me, we have a ton of issues. Now, Colton Miller is out for the remainder of the game. He had some knee issues early. Brandon Parker, who had been benched, has returned. Coach told me the young guy just had to settle in. So he is back out there. Defensively, he told me, look, we just have to cover guys. Too many receivers are being left wide open. We saw it on that last drive, Joe.
All right, we just saw Kelechi Osemele out at left tackle with Feliciano at guard, and more trouble for that offensive line as Dakota Watson is up to 1.5 sacks in his first game off IR, and a loss on the play of 4.
Well, you mentioned Osemele at left tackle. He has been at left guard, and so now he's playing a little bit of a different position, and things look different when you're out there, and Carr loses the ball there. He's able to get back on it, but you know, all that shuffling in the offensive line and guys playing different positions and having to make adjustments on the fly, and Feliciano at left guard now, and it wasn't very good in the first half, and it's probably only going to get worse.
3rd down and 12. He avoids another, wants to air it out. Instead, he comes underneath to Roberts. It's 4th down. Derek Carr was sacked 20 times all of last season. This was a 12-win team 2 years ago. And in 2016, Carr was sacked only 16 times. Now he's been sacked 22 times. 6 a couple of weeks ago at the hands of the Seahawks, and none last week by the Colts, but a regression for this offensive line here against their Bay Area rival. Ugly punt. Takes a Raider bounce inside the 30, and a flag comes down at the very end. Looked like the flag was thrown after the play was basically over. But we're used to this on punts.
Well, you look at this Nick Mullins, and he's just as casual as he can be. You know, he never at any point did he look like, or has he looked like he's been flustered. They've tried bringing pressure a couple different times. He's hung in the pocket. He's delivered strikes when they have. These officials now continue to congregate to sort through it.
See if it's on this on the outside with Dwayne Harris. Did he come back in immediately? Mike Pereira is with us.
Yeah, the discussion is if he goes out of bounds, he cannot be the first to touch. And you'll see the ball bounce there and bounce into him. And that is actually a 5-yard penalty because being out of bounds, he's not eligible to touch.
Here's a call.
Illegal touch. Number 17 of the kicking team. He was out of bounds. Reestablishing was the first to touch the ball. 5-yard penalty added to the end of the play. First down, timeout.
It has been Nick's night. A Thursday night in Santa Clara. He's back to work with his team up 21. 24-3. And for Nick Mullins, here's what we've seen.
Well, we've seen that they've come into this game wanting to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Of course, his first start, that's what you want to do with a young guy, and not have him sit back there and hold it. But at the same time, he's done a good job of being able to work through his progressions. And like I said earlier, when the Raiders then decided to bring some pressure, man, he picked that up quickly, got the ball out, and has just done a really nice job managing this game.
Here's Breida left side, well played. Lost yardage as Whitehead made the stop. And all that is made for a happy 49er sideline.
Oh, cool. Hey, we're gonna go score again. You already know what's going on, man. Got him, got him, got him. Score.
49ers have scored on 4 of their 5 possessions. Here's Kittle coming off the touchdown in the 72-yarder. The second-year tight end. Kind of an awkward tackle by Kabinda. An 18-yard catch and run.
Well, they're running a lot of boots, and the Oakland Raiders just continue to fall for it. And I'm just shocked that some of the things that are pretty simple and you see each and every week that they just can't seem to cover whatsoever. They turn Kittle loose in the flat again, and they've made it easy on Nick Mullins.
Mostert gets it on a toss, running right. No pursuit. Mostert inside the 10. Touchdown 49ers. What a night. With the rookie Mike McGlinchey supplying the convoy to the end zone. There may be a few less people on the bus back over to Oakland after this one.
You see, there's just no contain. None whatsoever. I mean, you talk about the rookie McGlinchey who gets out there. He's 25 yards downfield before he even has someone to try to block.
But there's something about effort. And the effort is there for the 49ers as Mostert takes it 52 yards. Long night for John Gruden. Here's a moment captured on the sideline between head coach John Gruden and Paul Guenther, his defensive coordinator. The Raiders defense has allowed points on 15 of the last 18 opponent drives. If you don't include game-ending drives and kneel downs. And on national TV, year one of his historic 10-year deal, Jon Gruden's Raiders are getting embarrassed by their crosstown rivals.
They sure are. They were embarrassed on Sunday defensively. Offensively, they looked a little better. Embarrassed again tonight, really on both sides of the ball.
Out to the 25 for Derek Carr, and we give you a short message from Target. What Derek Carr and the Raiders can figure out here as we look at a quarterback comparison after the play. And the numbers for Mullins are incredible. Carr not so much. He hands to Martin. And Doug Martin carries for 3. Here are the numbers as you look at two guys who wear number 4. One guy's a 5th-year vet, the other guy making his first start in the NFL, and Mullins with a quarterback rating of almost perfect.
Well, and you look at it in this game, and we talked about the protection that Derek Carr had on Sunday, and I expected that really to continue in this game because the 49ers, they've had challenges of their own defensively, and they've had a hard time getting to the quarterback, but 5 sacks already in this ball game.
Quarterback comparison presented by Target. Great numbers for Mullins. And for Derek Carr, they're just trying to establish something. Maybe keep their defense off the field. First down carry for Doug Martin.
Yeah, I think that, and at 31-3, certainly you'd love to be able to just drop back and throw the ball, and that's really what you should be doing if you're going to be able to get back in it. But you're going to get your quarterback killed if you try that. We've seen how that's gone so far. So I think that Jon Gruden is saying, hey, okay, we're going to try to make some plays here, but we're also not going to abandon the running game completely, and they've got a couple good runs off of.
It's been a 5-sack night for this 49er defense. Carr chased. Comes back to Martin, who was seated, and that pass is incomplete as Martin trapped it. Armstead with pressure on Derek Carr, and all he could do was relieve the pressure by throwing to Martin, who had fallen down.
Yeah, Eric Armstead, one of those guys that when you talked about the first rounders that they have along that defensive front, DeForest Buckner, who's been a good player, he draws a lot of the double teams, and so they've been waiting for one of the other 3 to be a guy who can consistently win one-on-one matchups, and that's been the problem for the 49ers, but they're winning them tonight.
Pass is caught by Richard on 2nd and 10, a gain of 5. Silver lining, but it's only a silver lining if you scout well and you pick the right guys. 3 first-round picks in 2019 with the draft coming up in Nashville, and then at the moment 2 first-rounders in 2020. As they got 2 for Khalil Mack this year and next.
Well, you can do a lot of damage when you've got 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. You can make a lot of moves. You can certainly move up in the draft. They'll have top picks as it is, but I was a part of that in '89 when we traded Herschel Walker, and it turned our franchise around.
Penalty flag on the play, and Derek Carr had that pass knocked down by Fred Warner. We'll see what the penalty is. It's 4th down. Kind of an awkward start to that play as the flag was thrown before the snap.
Illegal formation, offense number 70. That penalty's declined. Result of the play, 4th down.
So they get now left tackle Osemele with an illegal formation call, and it's 4th down.
They got Brandon Parker in the first quarter, and now they get Osemele, who again has gone from left guard to left tackle with the shuffling of the offensive line.
Dante Pettis is back. One of the better punts of the night. Another flag. Pettis from inside the 20 out near the 24. 43-yard punt, 8-yard return, but a flag was thrown.
During the kick, holding, number 32. Return team, half the distance to the goal. First down, timeout.
It's against the rookie DJ Reed. There's been some frustration for the guys in white and their head coach. 31-3 San Francisco. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light. We're in Santa Clara, to the south and east of San Francisco, and 49ers are having a blast. Starting at their 8. Nick Mullins has thrown for 260. Hands to Breida. And Breida just knifes his way through this defense, and a flag flies. Looks like a hold, and this one's coming back. A 15-yard carry by Matt Breida.
Holding, number 11. Offense, 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
So they get Marquise Goodwin on the outside. There's Mark Davis in charge of these Raiders, and they are building toward that move to Las Vegas. They've traded Amari Cooper. They traded Khalil Mack. They're stockpiling first-round picks. You were talking about it earlier that you were part of this as a player.
Hey, Chip.
First down and 8. After that run, handoff is to Mostert, and he's got a first down. I can't imagine what that was like for you. You get in the building, and all of a sudden, greatness, and Herschel Walker leaves.
Well, Herschel Walker in 1988 led the league in rushing. I came in 1989 along with Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, and about 4 games in, all of a sudden, Herschel Walker, who was our best football player, was traded for a lot of draft picks to the Minnesota Vikings. And you know, I remember thinking, gosh, we just got rid of our best player. We can't win with it. You know, where are we going? But that was Jimmy's philosophy was, hey, we aren't winning with him. We might as well make a move. And that obviously turned the franchise around in a short period of time.
Look at these holes that Mostert and Breida get to run through. A gain of 9 on first down.
But, you know, like some of the moves that have been made with the Raiders, it wasn't accepted, you know, by a lot of people as a great move by Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys. You know, there was a lot of criticism that came with that pick, or with that trade.
We'll get more into it after the break, as Daryl Worley was down. He's now up and walking off. Back after this. Aerial coverage is brought to you by State Farm as we continue from Santa Clara. And a little distance between coordinator Gunther and head coach Gruden. See those numbers and how they have been outscored in the second half. Biggest point differential in the NFL this season. 2nd and 1. Handoff is to Mostert, and he is fighting for the 30-yard line. And they're going to rule him just short. But when we mention this trade, you see the headlines that followed. And this was not a well-received trade by the media in your rookie year back in Dallas.
No, it was not, and it was only going to be as good as the picks that came afterwards. Like you mentioned, with all 5 first-round draft picks for the Oakland Raiders, that's great. But you've got to make those picks count.
Here's Mostert, and he was tripped up short of the first down yardage by McDonald.
You know, Jimmy Johnson was able to make those picks count, and obviously Emmitt Smith was one of those guys that was able to come in and join the team, and you know, then we were off and running. But a lot of picks that they've been able to accumulate, if they make the right picks, and I think they have some good young talent through this year's draft, then they can get it going in a hurry. But they got a long way to go based on what we've seen.
Mostert evidently really hurt on that carry. You heard that scream. Players taking a knee. They'll check him out. We'll take a break. Let's just hope he's okay. Doesn't look good. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football, presented by Bud Light at Levi's Stadium. It's an arm injury for Mostert, who's having a big game. 7 carries, 86 yards. It's gruesome. You can watch if you want. An arm injury. And we just saw a 44-yard punt. That's why there was a scream down there. That's why players were reacting the way they were. And into the tent he went. So the Raiders have the ball. Trailing by 28. With the ball at the 27. Derek Carr has had little protection. Here's Richard. A little screen, and he picks up 12 yards and a first down. Fred Warner on the stop, and now Richard is banged up.
Well, it's really a shame for Raheem Mostert with the injury, and a guy who was really starting to come on a little bit. He had fumbled the ball in the preseason, and then he came into the season, had another fumble. He went into the doghouse of Kyle Shanahan's, and then he kind of worked his way back into having an opportunity, and he made the most of it. And Kyle Shanahan was really excited to see that. And then the night that he was having in tonight's game, really unfortunate.
Pass is caught by Bryant. Feel terrible for the young man. On Saturday, the 10th ranked Buckeyes look to get back in business against Nebraska at 11:30 Eastern. Then Big 12 contenders West Virginia and Texas. Clash at 3:30 Eastern. That's coming your way Saturday on Fox, or watch anywhere on the Fox Sports app. Any update we get on Raheem, we will pass along. 2nd down and 4 here for the Raiders.
Blue Whitey, what's up?
Handoff is to Martin. And he's still playing hard. Looked like he was brought down just short of first down yardage. First possession led to a field goal. Since then, for Oakland, it's been punts or the half. 3rd down and less than a yard here for the Raiders.
Yeah, they opened up that first drive and did a nice job. They went about 65 yards, and then they just stalled because of penalties and sack, and they settled for the field goal. But boy, they just have not been able to get much going since then.
And now on one side, the near side, it says first down. On the far side, it says 3rd down. And so they're just going to give a first down. Okay. So it's first down, not 3rd down, and less than a yard. That was odd.
Well, they've kept the play clock at 10, and so now you saw Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coordinator, trying to get the clock reset, but they don't do it.
Wow. Boy, this is just ugly. Carr was backing out. Should be a false start.
I don't understand it.
Prior to any movement on the line, timeout. Oakland, their first of the half. It'll be a 30-second timeout.
Kick save by the sideline. Well, Willie McCovey, the Hall of Famer, who played 19 of his 22 seasons with the San Francisco Giants, slugged 521 career home runs, died yesterday at the age of 80. He was a Rookie of the Year in '59, NL MVP in '69. And when the Giants moved out here to the West Coast, they brought with them the game's best player, Willie Mays. But fans of the Giants, the San Francisco Giants, had Willie McCovey as their own, and that's why it's called McCovey Cove, where the Giants play now. He was a fearsome left-handed hitter. John Smoltz kept talking during the World Series about how he didn't like to watch batting practice when he was a pitcher, because he didn't like to see guys teeing off. That's what McCovey could do before games and in games. He was great. Here's Martin over the left side, a gain of 2.
You know, Willie McCovey was one of the first professional athletes that I ever met. I was living in Southern California, and I had a buddy whose dad made custom-made cowboy boots for various athletes, and for the Rams and for the Padres and Dodgers, and I went with him on a trip down to San Diego when Willie McCovey was playing for the Padres to deliver him some handmade cowboy boots. And yes, could not have been nicer to a young boy who certainly looked up to him.
2nd down and 8. Carr steps through trouble and now will slide inside the 45 at the 44 to bring up 3rd down with under a minute and a half to go, 3rd quarter. '62 World Series Game 7 at Candlestick, bottom of the 9th. Giants trailed 1-0, men on 2nd and 3rd, and an early shift had Bobby Richardson over in the hole, and McCovey hit a screaming line drive. Richardson perfectly placed defensively. Otherwise, that likely would have won the title for the Giants. Instead, another title for the Yankees. 3rd down and 4. Pass is caught by Bryant. Makes a move and now is dragged down inside the 25 by Elijah Lee. A completion of 24.
Well, that was pretty good there. Martavis Bryant, who I was talking about a little bit earlier, he really has a lot of ability. He's a big guy. He can get to full speed in about 3 steps, and he's just had a hard time really finding a home. But when he's able to make those kinds of catches and then run after the catch, he can be a handful. But to kind of go back to this whole Raider situation is, obviously they're huddling up. They're not in any rush. They're just going to try to execute their offense and see if they can't come out of this trying to gain something out of it.
Final play of the quarter. Martin is stood up and lost yardage. Fred Warner got through and made the play. And on to the 4th we go. 31-3. Back after this on Thursday night. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football presented by Bud Light. All San Francisco tonight. The 49ers having the fun. The coming out party for Nick Mullins. Raiders trying to get their first point since their first possession of the night. Carr steps through on 2nd and 11 and slides. 3rd down coming up. You talked about how unpopular. We showed you the headlines of that trade. Herschel Walker, the part of the Dallas media. Jimmy Johnson didn't care about the reception of the trade by the media. He called it the great train robbery when he made the deal, and then he wheeled and dealed those picks. And he started a dynasty with what he got out of that trade. Wound up with Emmett, Russell Maryland, Alonzo Highsmith, Kevin Smith, and Rod Woodson to support what was already there. 3 Super Bowls later, we know how that all ended. Here is Carr. He's down. The ball comes out. Looked like Carr was seated when they forced the ball out. But Cassius Marsh is having a game and now having a dance.
You watch this, Joe, and yes, there has been pressure on Derek Carr, but at times he's so quick to move up into the pocket that sometimes he runs into some of these hits that he's taken. Just the whole collection of effort has not been very good.
He was down. I said Rod Woodson, obviously Darren Woodson, your longtime teammate. 2 Super Bowls for Jimmy, and then 1 after he left. And now the young rookie kicker hits the upright on a 45-yard try. And there is not much going right for John Gruden's Raiders. Bad sound. And now a message from Verizon. Welcome back to Thursday Night Football presented by Bud Light. We've seen a lot of 49ers. Now we see Matt Millen, a great Raider, and current Raiders, ex-Raiders can't be happy with what they see here.
Yeah, Matt Millen winning a Super Bowl ring with both of these teams during his playing career.
From the 35, first down San Francisco. They run it, and Breida tripped himself. Talking about trades with regard to Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys back in the day. Golden Tate is now a Philadelphia Eagle. HaHa Clinton-Dix is now with the Redskins. Demaryius Thomas to the Texans after they lost Fuller, and Dante Fowler Jr. traded to the Rams to give them yet another first-round draft pick on their defense and a guy to rush off the edge.
How about that? You put him with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, and now an edge presence, and they are definitely all in and taking home the championship this year.
Here's Breida on second down and 13, a lot of room. He ends up with a 12-yard carry. Lee on the tackle. All those trades were surprising, not just in where these players ended up, but with regard to who gave up these players, because all those teams are seemingly still alive within their own divisions.
Yeah, and every team in each trade has its own reason as to why maybe the deal was made. But for those teams that got those players, Philadelphia made some great moves last year. I think that was a good move again for them. Basically doing it for 8 games to see if maybe they can re-sign him. But I've always been a huge Golden Tate fan. He's a real competitor, tough guy. I think he definitely helps them.
Mullins out to his right, and the pass is wide and incomplete for Goodwin.
And then you look at the Demaryius Thomas trade, and we were doing the game last Thursday night in Houston when Will Fuller goes down, and they're starting to hit their stride a little bit with some big playability that they lose with Fuller going down, and now you bring in another complement to DeAndre Hopkins, and so you can go across the board at those that we showed and say why they look pretty good for the teams that made the acquisitions. I think that was probably Nick Mullins' worst throw of the night that he just made, which probably tells you how good it's been.
Pinion booms it over the head of Dwayne Harris, but takes a bounce and goes into the end zone. 31-3. Looks like A.J. McCarron is coming out to play for Oakland. Back after this. Robert Saleh has to be really pleased with the way his group has come together here after a tough loss last week at Arizona. They blew that fourth quarter lead of 15-3, and they played lights out tonight.
They sure have, and I promise you what he's most excited about was the pass rush that they were able to generate.
6 sacks tonight of Derek Carr. Probably the biggest reason why McCarron is in the game. A fumbled snap and a handoff to Washington, and DeAndre Washington ends up with a 4-yard carry. So Derek Carr will sit the rest of this one out. And A.J. McCarron, who John Gruden traded for from Buffalo, is going to ride this one out the rest of the way.
Boy, you'd like to be in that meeting next week to hear what he has to say, wouldn't you? We're in the locker room after this game. I know that John Gruden is totally embarrassed by the performance tonight.
Second down and 6. Washington again breaks the tackle. About a yard shy of a first down after a carry of 5 yards, and Warner on the stop.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about the trades and all that, Joe, and defensively there has been a lot of movement with personnel and who's playing, and we saw it again tonight. Guys getting benched, getting put back in the game, and you know, there's an evaluation that's taking place, and guys are playing for their futures. And I can tell you that the veterans that are here, and maybe some of the young players too, some of them aren't going to have the stomach to want to have to deal with what they're going to have to go through if they're going to get to where they want to be.
Here's Washington, depends on where they put it down. Good push up front by Armstead. He had penetration on the play, and they set it down just short of the 30. It'll be 4th down and inches, and the Raiders will just go ahead and try and pick it up.
Well, I was going to say, surely they're going to go for it here, and yes, they are.
Oakland has to use their second timeout. America's game of the week late on Sunday. Doesn't get any better in the NFC. The 8-0 Rams, the only remaining undefeated team, taking on the 6-1 New Orleans Saints, first place in the NFC South, and coming off a big win at the Vikings.
Yeah, one of the first games where clearly there are playoff implications on the line. When teams meet early in the season, you think that they're going to be there in the end. But right now, the way these seasons are going, what an opportunity for the Saints to be playing at home and to be able to, in their minds, hopefully deal their first loss to the Los Angeles Rams and then have any tiebreakers that may occur. And if they meet in the postseason, then it would be in New Orleans, which obviously a huge benefit to the Saints.
McCarron trying to pick it up with his legs, and we'll see how generous the official wants to be. Not a lot of push.
Yeah, there was not much movement, was there?
And if they place it down short of the 30, it's San Francisco's ball, and they have, and it is. So not able to pick it up on 3rd and 1 or 4th and inches.
Well, that was the final dagger to John Gruden. 4th and inches, and just simply cannot do anything to pick that. That's hard to do. That's hard. That is hard to do, to not pick up a first down on inches needed on a quarterback sneak.
And the 49ers defense, even up 28, still playing hard.
Hey. Yeah.
Mullins hands to Morris, breaking tackles. And Alfred Morris brought down by Eric Harris after a carry of 11.
You know, we all know what the Raider organization has meant to John Gruden when he got traded to Tampa Bay for a couple first-round picks. And his first stint with the Raiders, those 4 years, he never had a losing season. He went 8-8 his first 2 years, and then 12-4 and 10-6, and then he was off to Tampa Bay, and obviously won a world championship for them. And to come back from those years off in broadcasting and to come back into the coaching profession and have a start like this, it's got to be demoralizing.
First down at the 18, handoff to Morris. And Morris drives to the 15-yard line. We had the headshots of those two quarterbacks that'll hook up on Sunday. 77%. That's the completion percentage for Drew Brees. And that's an NFL record at this point in the season. And they didn't ask him to do a whole lot. He finally threw his first interception this last week in a win at the Vikings, but the defense was so good. The running game was good enough. And that's going to be some battle on Sunday.
It's going to be awesome. It'll be a lot of fun. We haven't had a chance to see the Saints yet this year. I'm excited about that. I've seen the Rams a couple times. They're awfully good.
Toss to Morris, running right, lost a yard. The winner of that game will end up with the current #1 seed, if you will, in the hunt. What are we, week 9, and we've got an in the hunt graphic? I love it. See the Panthers, Seahawks, an impressive comeback for Seattle. They're the Vikings, the Packers at 3-3-1, and they've got a game coming up at New England.
Well, this is when it starts to get good. You know, once you pass the midway point, most coaches will say get to Thanksgiving and then they'll start talking playoffs. But this game on Sunday is going to be a fun game for us to call, and for a fun game, an exciting game should be anyway for those watching.
They threw a flag for delay of game. The question is, will they grant the timeout? Kyle Shanahan was trying to take it on the sideline.
Timeout, San Francisco. Their
and they'll
first
grant the timeout. Let's take a look at tonight's game summary presented by Verizon. And the summary is number 4 in his first taste. of an NFL regular season game just went off and looked great doing it.
They sure did. He was just very poised right from the first snap. And as I said, Paul Guenther and the Oakland Raiders defensively just never made him uncomfortable at all. You know, weren't able to rattle him and make him start second guessing things, and he's done a heck of a job. Right now you're saying if you're Kyle Shanahan, you want to get him more reps. With the score what it is, generally you'd probably just be running the ball, but you want to get him some work.
Pass is caught by Bourne, but he is wrapped up short of the first down by Harris, as Garnett has come in on the offensive line, and Weston Richburg, who didn't play last week and has been battling a knee injury, will take the rest of this game off.
You know, and you got to give Kyle Shanahan some credit too for the job that he did in a short week, getting Mullins ready to go. A game time decision today on C.J. Beathard, and it's not easy to do, to turn around even for a veteran player. But he called a nice game for Mullins.
Penalty flag on the 31-yard try by Gold. And we'll check the marker and see if the points stay on the board. And Sheffers wants to check with the 49ers sideline. Indication is against Oakland.
Illegal formation, defense. Number 99 covered the snapper. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
So with that 5-yard penalty, it's a first down, and the offense will come back on the field for the 49ers. And there is no field goal. So back to work is Mullins. And I don't care who you are or what you do for a living, if you're prepared, when you get your chance, you're at your most calm. And I think we heard that report from Aaron earlier. Nick Mullins was prepared for tonight.
Yeah, he was prepared, and I think the thing that gave him a real advantage was the fact that he had worked within the offense last year.
As a toss to Morris running left, loses yardage. Lee was the first one there.
And just in talking with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and this guy's a real grinder. He's a gym rat, and he, like I said early in this ball game, Kyle Shanahan says probably other than myself, he knows the offense better than anybody in the organization, and so he was able to come out and just kind of let it rip. But even with that, you don't know until you get into a game and do it. And right from the beginning, the first play of the game, they throw the ball, and then of course that bootleg, the touchdown to Garcon with the broken coverage, and he was off and running, and he's really looked good. It's been fun to watch him play.
A lot of Alfred Morris takes it inside the 10. The report from Aaron Andrews was this, that after games last year and this year, Nick Mullins would take the play sheet from the game and go into the empty stadium and run plays on his own by himself. I mean, that seems like, Aaron, the next level of preparation.
Next level, Joe, and here's another love fest. Well, the love fest continues for Nick Mullins. He would also practice the calls with his headphones on, and it would have crowd noise, you know, going through his ears. So he would practice what it would sound like, what it would feel like, with all the noise going on in his ears. So this is all coming from his teammates that hadn't played a regular season game with him and saw the work that he had put in.
And it's paid off. Morris takes it down inside the 10. It'll bring up fourth down. P.J. Hall on the stop, and we'll bring Robbie Gould back out onto the field. There's C.J. Beathard, who injured his wrist last week when he hit it on the helmet of Josh Bynes in the Cardinals game. His grandfather, the Hall of Famer Bobby Beathard, who was a quarterback, John Madden's quarterback at Cal Poly. And Bobby Beathard has been quoted many times as saying John Madden was the best running offensive lineman he had ever seen. And Bobby Beathard, one of the great talent evaluators of all time. A left tackle in college, he said he was as fast as anybody in the backfield. And the Hall of Famer paid that tribute to the Hall of Famer. Nick Mullins had an unverified Twitter account before the game. And now, let's see it. Where is it? The check mark is there. It's verified. And there will be number 4 jerseys, to be sure, sold out of the 49ers Pro Shop.
He's going to open up his Twitter account after this game, and he's going to tell him how many followers he's going to have all of a sudden. That's welcome to the big leagues.
Word is Taylor Kitsch has already signed on to play Nick Mullins in the movie of his first NFL start. And there's the lone number 4 family friend tweeting at Nick Mullins right now. I knew it. That's what she's saying.
Well, when they host the Giants next week, we'll see a lot more 4s, and we'll see a lot more people in the stands. Well, I got a text from Brett Favre at halftime.
Oh,
so
look at you, big shot.
Oh yeah, subtle brag there. He's back home. He's sure enjoying watching the kid play.
Dwayne Harris from inside the 5. Bourne gets a stiff arm right into his face. And Harris forced out by Jimmy Ward. Brett said it would be fine if I got his number from you. You good with that? Let's give you some sounds from the sideline.
So let's just keep doing your job. Everybody gonna eat. Good job, boy.
How you doing?
Let's go. Yeah.
He did the right thing. No,
It was a great job.
He said pass.
Way to find people. Let's go. Hey, nothing stops. Nothing stops. Someone's smoking out here.
And it hasn't stopped for Nick Mullins. We saw Richard Sherman at the beginning of that package. As McCarron, play action, just throws it away. He's under fire now. As this offensive line's having a tough time blocking anybody wearing a 49er uniform. But Richard Sherman, these coaches will tell you he's playing with injuries that 99% of the rest of the league would be on the sideline with.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Richard Sherman's and what he meant to Seattle and the Legion of Boom and him coming to San Francisco, coming off that big injury. And he has played through a lot. And you can tell he's missed a couple games this season. But what a great competitor he is. And you know, we didn't get a chance to talk to him during this game. The Raiders never even went after him.
There's Washington on 2nd and 10. Aaron, I know you found your friend Richard Sherman.
I wanted to, but I didn't get to. But I love what Robert Saleh told us, guys. He has nothing to prove, but in his mind, he has everything to prove. And you guys mentioned the injuries. And I did speak to John Lynch, though, general manager, and he said the best part about this guy is he knows with all the injuries he's been dealing with, like the calf and the heel, he has been such a great leader and teacher to these younger guys on that defense. There's Lynchy. Hey, Joe, you did not start the In the Hunt song.
Yeah, it's way too early for that. But thanks for reminding me. 3rd down and 5. 3 minutes left. Washington left side. Lee can't bring him down. 1st down for Oakland.
Well, it's unfortunate for San Francisco. You know, and injuries, I understand. They're a part of the game, and everybody's dealing with them. But when you lose your starting quarterback, it changes the outlook of a season. And with all the optimism that there was coming into this year after the way that Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers finished last season, you know, you lose your running back, you lose your starting quarterback, you've got some injuries at wide receiver, then you lose a couple games and it starts to snowball on you, and it's hard to come out of it. But you talk to people in the organization and we see it. There's another sack.
Ronald Blair gets in on the fun.
You could see it with the sounds of the game, or hear it with the sounds of the game, and then see it in the pictures that we show, that everyone talks about how this is a pretty close-knit group, and that's oftentimes really hard to have when you're going through a losing season like the 49ers have. And I think it's a credit to Kyle Shanahan and also John Lynch. John Lynch very involved. Of course, he's a general manager, but he's also very much involved with the team on a daily basis, and that's not always the case around the league with some general managers.
Coming up on the 2-minute warning, 2nd down and 17 for McCarron. Pass is caught over the middle. That's the tight end Carrier. And that will bring us to the 2-minute warning. Tonight after the postgame show, Todd Gurley joins NFL Total Access to talk about the Rams' 8-0 start and this weekend showdown with the Saints. NFL Total Access tonight after the postgame, only on NFL Network. Here's a little game summary if you're just channel surfing and have come upon this 34-3 game. Derek Carr, his night. He's now on the bench. Raiders couldn't protect him. Nick Mullins, his first action in the NFL. 262 yards, spreading the ball all over the place, 3 touchdowns. And the 49ers scoring on 6 of their 9 drives tonight. The aforementioned Todd Gurley became just the 3rd player in NFL history to score at least 15 touchdowns in his team's first 8 games. He leads the NFL with 96 points. Number 1 in rush yards with 800. Rushing touchdowns with 11 scrimmage yards. He's doing everything. There's John Lynch, our former colleague at Fox Sports, and a great player, predominantly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, talking to Kurt Warner. There's Mooch, former 49er head man. 2 minutes left.
Stay in the post.
McCarron throws it away. Week 9 spotlight this Sunday, and all times are Eastern. Big Ben and the Steelers at the Ravens. That's on CBS. Todd Gurley and the Rams at the Saints. And then that big game on NBC at night. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers coming off that really thrilling game in LA, taking on Tom Brady and the Patriots.
A tough stretch for the Packers on the road in LA last Sunday. And then, of course, having to travel to New England. Try to beat them, but they've got some disappointments of their own. Traded Clinton Dix, but yet they're still very much in the thick of it. They're in the NFC North.
You saw that sneak peek. You know what's coming up next, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The Buffalo Wild Wings postgame show. You know, one game can create a lot of value in the NFL, especially at the quarterback position. And Nick Mullins came in not having played a snap in the regular season. A preseason star this year, and well, he's just a guy. That's what people said. Well, in his first NFL game, let alone start, he was more than that. He was poised. He was able to find guys all over the field. Looked like a leader out there. I just don't think he could have played any better.
No, I don't think so either. And you bring up a good point. I think Matt Flynn with the Green Bay Packers, when he got an opportunity to play and play well, and all these teams out there that are in need of a quarterback, and I don't know what C.J. Beathard's hand's going to look like next week, but Kyle Shanahan will have to make a decision, and the way Mullins played, I think I'd continue to see what he might be able to do.
Quarterback rating of 151.9, 8 different receivers, 16 of 22, 262, 3 touchdowns, no picks. On the other side, for John Gruden, he's playing the long game. Year 1 of a 10-year deal. But the clock has started. He's made trades. Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, and I think it's fair to say that no position is safe going forward for the Oakland Raiders, not with the picks and the salary cap room that they have.
Yeah, I'm sure John Gruden's wishing that the trade deadline hadn't passed. There might be a few more people that are traded.
That's it, a final of 34-3. And a nice statement made by Kyle Shanahan in his second year as the head coach here with the 49ers. A lost season record-wise for both teams, but you would not have known that with the way the 49ers played tonight. They snapped a 6-game losing streak. They're 2-7, and they look good doing it. That's it from Santa Clara. Buffalo Wild Wings post-game show coming up. Thanks for watching Thursday Night Football presented by Bud Light.